All right, let's talk about something huge, the American dream. You've heard the phrase a million times. It's this powerful idea that has fueled people, yeah, but it's also frustrated them for generations. So the big question is, what does it actually mean right now? Let's dive in and figure it out. So let's start with the big question. What is the American dream? I mean, seriously, we hear that phrase all the time, right? But does it just mean getting rich? Is it about having total freedom? Or is there something, I don't know, deeper going on? That's what we're going to unpack right here. Okay, so here's something that might surprise you. The phrase the American dream, it was actually coined during the Great Depression. Yeah, really. A writer named James Truslow Adams came up with it in 1931. And his idea? It wasn't about having a mansion and a fleet of luxury cars. Not at all. He defined it as a dream of a better, richer, and fuller life for everyone. The key part was that your success should come from your own ability and your achievements, not what family you were born into. So, what are the building blocks of this dream? Well, at its very core, it's all about one powerful idea: opportunity. And that promise of opportunity, it's built on a few key ideals that you can hear echoing all the way through American history. And where does it all begin? With liberty. Think about Patrick Henry back during the Revolutionary War. When he said, "Give me liberty or give me death," that wasn't just some political catchphrase. He was framing freedom as something absolutely non-negotiable, as essential as life itself. And that fierce, passionate defense of individual liberty, that becomes the bedrock, the absolute foundation of the American dream. Okay, but liberty by itself isn't the whole story, right? The dream also needs this other piece, the ideal of just good old-fashioned hard work, industriousness. And nobody captured this better than Theodore Roosevelt. He said the best prize in life isn't the money or the fame, it's the chance to do work worth doing. See, the idea isn't just about what you get from your job. It's about the dignity, the fulfillment you find in the work itself. That's the real prize. And you see this promise pop up again and again throughout history, but it kind of changes with the times. It starts with Thomas Jefferson, writing about the right to pursue happiness. Then you've got Ralph Waldo Emerson, who just comes right out and says it. America is another name for opportunity. Fast forward to the 1960s, and JFK adds a new layer, a call for civic duty. What can you do for your country? And then you get to the 21st century. For a lot of people, the fact that a story like Barack Obama's was even possible, well, that felt like the ultimate proof of the dream. Okay, so that's the promise. But there's another side to this story, a much tougher side. Because for every promise, you have to ask about the reality. Has this dream really been for everyone? Right from the very beginning, there have been these powerful, critical voices asking a hard question. Is the American dream a beautiful promise, or is it actually a cruel illusion? And you can't see this tension any clearer than when you put two giants side by side, Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. And get this, they said these things just 1 year apart. For Dr. King, his dream of equality was, in his words, deeply rooted in the American dream. He was challenging America to live up to its own founding principles. But then you have Malcolm X, looking at the exact same country, the exact same reality, and he says, I don't see any American dream. I see an American nightmare. Wow, two totally different worlds. And the critiques don't stop there. Some people started questioning the whole point of the chase. You know, has the dream just turned into a rat race? The comedian Lily Tomlin had this killer line that just nails it. The trouble with the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. It's a sharp, funny, and kind of devastating critique of a pursuit that can feel, well, totally dehumanizing. Then you've got George Carlin, who came in with maybe the most cynical take of all. He said, it's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. Oof, that one stings. But his point was that in a world with such massive inequality, the idea that just working hard is enough to get you to the top, well, he saw that as a total fantasy, a fairy tale you'd have to be dreaming to believe. And this line of thinking goes even deeper. It starts to question what we even mean by success. The writer James Baldwin pointed out this incredibly cruel paradox. He said it is extremely expensive to be poor. Think about that.
It's a trap that makes climbing that ladder feel almost impossible. And then you have Robert F. Kennedy, who back in '68 challenged the whole country. He said our big economic numbers, like the GNP, they measure everything except that which makes life worthwhile. Things like our kids' health, the quality of their schools, or just the joy of being alive. So, where does all this leave us? You've got this beautiful, inspiring promise on one hand, and this really harsh, critical reality on the other. It feels like a total contradiction. But here's a thought. What if that tension, that conflict, what if that's not a failure of the dream? What if it's actually part of the design? Part of a story that's still being written?
The great abolitionist Frederick Douglass gives us a whole new way to look at this. He said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Just let that sink in. From his point of view, struggle isn't a sign that the dream is broken. Struggle is the engine that makes progress happen. Power, he said, never gives up anything without a demand. So opportunities aren't just handed to you. They have to be fought for, demanded. And that fight, that becomes a central part of the American story itself.
And that brings us to one last idea, a really beautiful one from the poet Walt Whitman. He looked at the country and said, the United States themselves are essentially the greatest poem. So what if we stop thinking about America as a finished product, something we can just grade as a pass or fail? What if it's more like what Whitman saw, a giant, messy, beautiful poem, a work of art that's always being written and rewritten by every single person in it?
So that's what we're left with. After all of this, what do you think? Is the American dream a promise we just need to keep working to fulfill? Is it a myth that we need to expose and debunk? Or is it that unfinished poem that Whitman talked about, with the next verse just waiting for us to write it?